We're starting a two-part study on the book of Ruth today. Hope you enjoy this.
Religion are many, prosperity preachers are many who seek to twist the truth of the Bible for their own destruction. Get ready to hear the truth from the Mr. Cocolitas and the Bible podcast. Genesis to Revelation, and Jesus Christ is the key that unfolds it all. Listen as he explains parables, miracles, history, and more of the Bible. People are tired of false religion and teacher who confirm it. Let's listen to Mr. Cocolitas and the Bible podcast. Genesis to Revelation, and Jesus Christ is the key that holds it all. Listen as he explains parables, miracles, history, and more of the Bible. Of the Bible. Genesis to Revelation. Jesus Christ as the key that unfolds it all. Listen as he explains parables, miracles, history, and more of the Bible. Of the Bible. Of the Bible. Smile.
It's been some time that I haven't went to this podcast. Anyway, we have a great study today. And we're studying the book of Ruth today. This book was about in the time of the judges. This is what it refers to. We don't know the author. Some says Samuel. I really doubt it was Samuel, because Samuel never got to see David as king. Some people make a good point and say, well, this book could have been written in the time of the return from Babylon, because there was a situation where the male Jews ended up marrying women from Moab and other nations. And this book could have been written to show an example that a woman from another nation was not actually a bad thing. But it's a historical book. I believe this book to be true in every sense of the word. I believe this to be history. It tells us when the time is referring to. It's the time of the judges. And if we know something about the time of the judges, it was a time where people lived like they wanted to live. They did whatever they wanted to do. You want to do something bad, they did it bad. Whatever seemed right in their eyes. It says in Judges 21:25, in those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. And you also see that in Judges 17:6 as well. It says this, and in those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. So people are living very crazy lives at that time. You can imagine all the type of sins in the time of the judges people fell into. Not just the regular folks, but the judges and even the priests. And we know about them falling into sin. Just look at the sons of Samuel and the son of Eli, how corrupted they were. And just the life of Samson. And he was a judge, and he had a corrupted life as well. So people lived the way they wanted to live. And you know, in the Old Testament, and specifically in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 12, verse 8, it tells us, hey, you're not supposed to live the way you want to live. You're supposed to live the way God wants you to live. You've been redeemed for a purpose. In Deuteronomy 12, let me find this. Deuteronomy 12, verse 8. It says this. Don't you hate it when pages get stuck? It says this. You shall not at all do as you were doing here today, every man doing whatever is right in his own eyes. No, you can't do what you want to do. It's not the way you want to live. It's the way God wants you to live. And that's the problem with the time of the judges. People live the way they want to live, and they did not care for the consequences of things. And this is in the time that we're living today. We cannot be living how we want to live. What does the Bible tells us? That we've been redeemed, that we were bought at a price. Just like we look at the book of Ruth, and we see the kinsman redeemer, Boaz. Boaz is a typology of Jesus. And Ruth, she's a type of the church. And this is very clearly seen in this story. Ruth was a Moabite. The Moabites came from the descendants of Lot. Remember in Genesis 19, Lot, he left Sodom and Gomorrah with his daughters and his wife. But his wife looked back and she became a pillar of salt. In Genesis 19, we also see that he said, don't let us go to this mountain, because if we go to this certain mountain, something wrong may happen. Let us go to this city. The city, I think, was called, Zora. I believe that was the city. And what happened in Zora? It wasn't as they wanted it to be. It was just as corrupt as Saddam. So they left Zora. They left there and they went to the mountains. And what happened in the mountains? Lot's two daughters got their father drunk and they had sex with their father, thinking that there was no other men out there. And the firstborn of his daughters was the one who had Moab, which means of his father. She had a son of his father, of her father specifically. And they had problems with the Israelites. They hated the Israelites. They were the ones who sent Balak, specifically the king of Moab, sent Balaam to curse Israel. So there was a hostility between Israel and Moab. And the people of Moab also, they worshipped a certain idol named Chemosh. Chemosh was the god of the Moabites. We can see this in Numbers 21:29. Numbers 21:29. I'm giving you some background information so we could know a little bit about this. 21:29, it says this. Again, the pages get stuck. Have mercy on me. It says, woe to you, Moab, you have perished, O people of Chemosh. So the people of Moab was the people of Chemosh. They worshipped Chemosh. And Chemosh, he was a god who demanded from his people human sacrifices. You can see this in 2 Kings chapter 3. What happens in 2 Kings chapter 3? We see the king of Moab sacrificing his firstborn. It says this in verses 26 and 27. And when the king of Moab saw that the battle was too fierce for him, He took with him 700 men who drew the sword to break through to the king of Edom, but they could not. Then he took his eldest son, who would have reigned in his place, and offered him as a burnt offering upon the wall. Notice the type of people that the Moabites were. They were people who sacrificed their own kids. That's definitely not the type of person you want for your children to be married to. So it's not a good place to go to. The Bible tells us not to be unequally yoked together with non-believers, 2 Corinthians 6:14. And they also, in the Deuteronomy 7:2-4, God told Israel, hey, don't marry with the descendants of Moab. Deuteronomy 7, verse 2-4. Let's go there. It says, and when the Lord your God delivers them over to you, you shall conquer them and utterly destroy them. You shall make no covenant with them, nor show them mercy to them, nor shall you make marriages with them. You shall not give your daughters to their sons, nor take their daughters for your sons. For they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods. So the anger of the Lord will be aroused against you and destroy you suddenly. God's saying, don't make no pacts with these nations. Don't make no pacts with these nations. And one of these nations was Moab. That was one of those nations that God did not want them to deal with. But yet God in his mercy allowed this to happen. And for a purpose. We see in Nehemiah 13 the following. On that day they read from the book of Moses in the hearing of the people, and in it was found written that no Ammonite or Moabite should ever come into the assembly of God, because they had not met the children of Israel with bread and water, but hired Balaam against them to curse them. However, our God turned the curse into a blessing. And if we go, I believe if it's Deuteronomy or Leviticus, I'm not sure where it is. But the thing is, if we go and see in the law of Moses, we see God mentioning it up to the 10th generation. I believe that's why you see the genealogy at the end of the book of Ruth, to show that David is the rightful heir, because he goes up to the 10th genealogy, from counting from Tamar, the one who got pregnant from her father-in-law. I believe it's in Genesis 38. Let's look at the PC. Anyway, we will continue what we're talking about in our next program. Let's find it real quick here before we wrap things up. I have to go to my PC. It says what I quoted from in Nehemiah 13 verse 1 is found in Deuteronomy 23 verses 3 and 4. An Ammonite and a Moabite shall not enter the assembly of the Lord, even to the 10th generation. None of his descendants shall enter the assembly of the Lord forever, because they did not meet you with bread and water on the road when you came out of Egypt, and because they hired against you Balaam, the son of Beor, from Peor of Mesopotamia, to curse you. Let's leave it here, and I'll see you in the next program of the Mr. Kakalides and the Bible podcast.
Get ready to hear Mr. Kakalides and the Bible podcast. Get ready to learn the Bible from Genesis to Revelation.